But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
And as he's coming through, she shot him. He went down, and then she ran out her front door with the shotgun in her hand.
This registered sex offender is dead. The woman who shot him will not face criminal charges. Her harrowing Halloween story tops our news today at 5.
Good afternoon, everyone. 5 days after a local woman is raped, authorities say her rapist returned for a second attack.
But that second meeting left this man dead. He is 47-year-old Ronnie Pryor, a registered sex offender living in Jackson. The victim, a 57-year-old woman living here in Cape Girardeau. Now, we're not going to release her name nor where she lives, but authorities want us to tell you about what she did to protect herself from being attacked a second time. It's our top story today at 5.
Cape Girardeau County Prosecuting Attorney Morley Swingle was writing up charges against Ronnie Pryor when he got the word that Pryor had died.
Instead of filing the charges on him, I began a letter to Chief Kinnison letting him know that the woman in this case, a 57-year-old woman, is not going to be charged with any sort of crime.
Swingle's letter lays out a harrowing story that begins 5 nights ago when a man breaks into the woman's home through a basement window and rapes her.
She had seen his face and had described these unusual black spots on his face, these blemishes, but she didn't know him. He was a complete stranger.
Cape Girardeau police begin working the case and patrolling the woman's neighborhood. In the meantime, she gets her basement window fixed and borrows a friend's 12-gauge shotgun. Just after midnight on Halloween, the nightmare begins again. The woman hears a car door slam and calls 911.
Once they satisfied her and themselves that nobody was there, they left. She was then watching TV, and at about 2:15 in the morning, suddenly her power went out.
Swingle says Ronnie Pryor had broken back in through the same basement window and cut off the electricity.
She got spooked when her electricity went out. She got a shotgun, and she sat in a chair listening. Then she heard somebody slamming against her basement door in her kitchen, and she went and looked at that kitchen door, and he slammed it a second time and actually broke through it. And as he's coming through, she shot him. He went down, and then she ran out her front door with the shotgun in her hand, got to a neighbor's and was pounding on the door, screaming for help.
Officers arrived in seconds to find Pryor stumbling through the victim's backyard. He died at a local hospital 7 hours later.
Rape conviction, got a 10-year prison sentence in November of 1989.
Morley Swingle calls Ronnie Pryor a career criminal with 11 felony arrests and 5 convictions. Having just fought to protect Missouri's new rules on sex offenders and Halloween, Swingle sees the bizarre timing of this already closed case.
If Ronnie Pryor had pulled off what he intended to pull off, it would have been a registered sex offender raping a woman on Halloween. It's just that she had taken steps to make sure it wasn't going to happen to her again by notifying the police department, by asking for the extra patrols, and by arming herself with a gun.
Cape Girardeau County Coroner John Clifton tells me he plans to rule Ronnie Pryor's death as a justifiable homicide, agreeing with Morley Swingle that no charges will be filed.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
We begin this morning with a breaking news alert out of Hickory Hill. Memphis police are investigating a home invasion robbery that turned into a homicide case. This all happened about 2:30 this morning in the 3700 block of Hyacinth Road. That's near Winchester and Mendenhall.
And police say a man who had been breaking into cars in the neighborhood forced his way into a home and then got into a shootout with a homeowner. Now, the crook died and the homeowner was taken to the hospital. Eyewitness News Everywhere reporter Brian Heap has been talking with police. Brian, first of all, how's the homeowner doing this morning?
Bonnie, he was shot as well. He is in non-critical condition over at the Med. Police have been trying to interview him this morning, also interviewing some other witnesses to find out just what happened here. Police left the scene a short time ago, but you see all the cars behind me. Those cars were part of this investigation as well, because police say the guy who broke into the house had been first breaking into those cars. Take a look at some video that we shot overnight, and you'll see police out here working on this case. They say the man they think was behind those break-ins, forced his way into one side of a duplex here on Hyacinth. He ended up confronting the man who lives inside. They two ended up trading gunfire. The thief was killed, and police found him dead on the kitchen floor when they got here. And the homeowner, again, was shot himself. He's in non-critical condition. So police right now are trying to determine if there will be any charges filed against that man. Bonnie, at this point, we don't know.
And Brian, typically we don't have so many spots where there is a crime scene. I mean, this crook really made his way around, according to police. He must have been after something.
Yeah, Bonnie, the police told me that there had been a problem in this area with car break-ins and home break-ins, so they've really been concentrating patrols around this area lately. And so one of the things that they happened to find is that this man, they say, had been breaking into several cars in this area, but for some reason, they don't know why yet, he had broken into this house after breaking into all those other cars. And that's when he was confronted by this guy with the gun, and the two traded gunfire.
All right, Brian Heap reporting for us in Hickory Hill. We'll stay on top of what happens in this case.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
Tonight's top story, new information on a homeowner who shot a man breaking into his garage.
Just moments ago, Memphis police announced the homeowner will not face any charges. The shooting happened overnight in North Memphis in the 800 block of North Avalon. Police say that the homeowner ordered the burglar to get off his property and then fired the shot when the man tried to attack him. Eyewitness News Everywhere reporter Dana Revick talked with a next-door neighbor who heard the gunshot. But Dana, did she see what happened?
No, she didn't, Cameron. She says that she heard a loud bam is how she described it. She said she didn't wake up, though, because gunfire isn't unusual in this neighborhood from what she told us. Now, she lives right behind this house, and that's right next to the garage where this all happened last night.
Neighbors on North Avalon Street in Memphis say this site should be enough to make burglars think twice about breaking into homes. An intruder lost his life shot in this garage after being confronted by the homeowner.
Police say that this guy went after the homeowner with a weed whacker, and that's when the homeowner decided to shoot him.
Last night about 2 o'clock I heard a bam, but I didn't get up because I hear gunshots over here all the time.
That sound was coming from this man's garage. The woman who lives right here behind him says it's no surprise. She says she was robbed in her driveway right around Christmas.
I was held gunpoint in my driveway, and my house has been broken in over here twice.
Marilyn Bridgeforth says she commends the homeowner and warns burglars no break-in is worth ending up in a body bag.
He should have shot him. You can't break in a person and steal nothing that they've worked hard for. That's not right. And if somebody break in my yard or driveway, I'm going to do the same thing.
Now, the man who lives in this house behind me did not want to talk with us about what happened. Now, police, again, cleared him of all charges. They say this is a classic case of self-defense.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
There are concerned citizens, and then there are really concerned citizens. One of the really concerned type helped a cop catch a crook this morning. The FBI says 48-year-old Steve Bernardoni held up the Bank of Albuquerque branch on Southern Road in Rio Rancho. As he fled on foot with Officer Chris Camacho in hot pursuit, they ran past Shane Sanderson's gun shop. Sanderson, who was armed, ran out and backed up the cop as he tackled the bandit.
This guy just made a bank robbery, so you have no idea what his capacity is. So I was just looking more from the side that if that was me having to chase him down, I'd like to know somebody was there to at least make a phone call or try to get me some kind of help as quickly as possible without interfering.
As Officer Camacho subdued the robber, Sanderson called 911 and gave specific directions to other police units that were heading to the scene. Bernardoni was arrested and all of the bank's money was...
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
Eyewitness centers. It took one shot for an East Texas senior to put an end to a would-be robber's crime spree.
Yeah, the story began around 2 o'clock this morning at Southside Bank in Hawkins. The branch is located inside Brookshire's right off Highway 14. That's where police say 19-year-old David McWhorter was spotted first. KLTV7's Larry Livingston spoke to the homeowner whose one shot landed the alleged burglar in the ER.
Put the gun up to the window and he was standing there and I pulled the trigger.
One shot through the window was all it took. Our homeowner didn't mind an on-camera interview but asked his name not be released. He's 78 and suffers from a hip injury. He was sitting in his chair when the suspect broke through his screened porch. He says it's not the first time he's been broken into. Every window is now nailed shut. A baggie full of ammo for his .410 single-shot shotgun is always nearby.
And then I worked hard for all my life. Ain't nobody gonna come in here and just take it if I can help it. If you can't retreat, you have every right in the world to protect yourself.
Hawkins Police Lieutenant A.J. Randall says while police worked the call at Brookshire's, another call came in about the break-in a block away. Police say the suspect was found across the street inside his brother's car with a gunshot wound to the left shoulder.
He came in, woke him up, said, "I've been shot, take me to the hospital." I'm sorry that it happened, but he shouldn't be trying to break in and steal other people's properties. Protect what's mine, you know.
And after 23 years of retired life, our homeowner doesn't plan on moving anytime soon. In Hawkins, Laren Livingston, KLTV 7 News.
The homeowner says the suspect may have been after his medication. Hawkins police tell us the suspect may have also broken into another home not too far away.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
And while crowds gathered at the beach this holiday weekend, the search continues for a father and son missing in the water.
We'll tell you why it's especially dangerous out there today.
But we start with new details tonight. And a robbery police say was stopped by a Good Samaritan who was armed.
The robbers broke in through the ceiling of a store in a strip mall and just waited there for employees to show up for work.
But when one of those workers arrived, she was accompanied by her husband and a gun.
Our Jeremy Diesel is live in North Houston to tell us more on that story. JD?
Well, Greg, working on the holiday, of course, is not much fun, but for 2 employees here at this Ace Cash Express, the day got worse before it even started. These robbers started the holiday morning early.
Came in overnight through the roof of an adjoining business, came in through the adjoining wall, and waited for the employees to come in this morning.
Planned well, breaking into the secure area behind the glass and waiting. Not quite good enough, though. When the workers arrived, they couldn't open the safe because it's on a timer. The bad guy's getaway, not clean.
One of the suspects was shot by the husband of an employee who happened to be outside waiting, making sure that she got in safely, which actually turned out to be a good thing.
The man did have a legal gun and a concealed handgun permit. He was questioned and released at the scene.
And I know the girls that work here.
For people who use this strip mall a lot, this type of crime is personal.
It hurts me because in this neighborhood, we're all families, and we all take care of one another.
It's very, very, very hard to take it. It's stressful, very stressful. We cannot even sleep as a business people.
Nearby business owners say the way that the crooks got in through the walls is more and more common.
It's a very high-risky business, and like I said, it just happens again and again.
In this case, police don't believe that the robbers actually got away with anything, except maybe a little lead. Now, that injured suspect was shot in the arm and is expected to recover. There is a second suspect, but police really have very little to go on. That's because both of those suspects were wearing all black and had bandanas on covering their faces. The search, though, does continue. Live in North Houston, Jeremy Diesel, KHOU, 11 News.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
A weekend shooting leaves one person dead. Around midnight Saturday in Kinsey, a man was shot several times after reportedly breaking and entering the home of his ex-girlfriend. The shooter, her new boyfriend. News 4's Brianna Huckins has the story.
An ongoing domestic dispute took a turn for the worse Saturday night. 38-year-old Jimmy Proctor of Headland went to his ex-girlfriend's house on Lookout Lane in Kinsey after making several phone calls to the residents.
Statements made from the ex-girlfriend, Mr. Proctor, was that there had been some domestic issues of phone calls, with jealousy issues.
Proctor entered Leslie Simmons' home by force and threatened her, her children, and current boyfriend, Michael Fredrickson.
Mr. Fredrickson was in the bedroom or the bathroom of the master bedroom and was cornered in there, and no other way to avoid any confrontation or conflict with Mr. Proctor.
Shortly after, Proctor allegedly charged at Fredrickson, and Fredrickson shot him several times, killing him. Authorities consider this to be a second-degree burglary. Proctor may not have entered the home with intent to steal anything, but it was still an unwanted, forceful entry.
Now, when he makes his threats to do harm to somebody, and you can look at it as a home invasion, but we defined it in our report as a burglary.
Fredrickson will not have any charges filed against him because he was acting within the boundaries of the castle law.
You do not have to retreat. You don't have to run out the back door. In your home, you can use deadly physical force. And, you know, once again, it's a crime that's very preventable. Just don't go and break into people's homes in the daytime or nighttime.
Fredrickson may not be living in the home, but he was an invited guest. And in that case, the castle law still applies. Reporting from Kinsey, Brianna Huckins, WTVY News 4.
Now, the investigation is ongoing by the Houston County Sheriff's Department.
And as of now, it does not appear that drugs or alcohol played a role in the incident, but that will be determined by forensics.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
Hysteria at a Smith's in downtown Salt Lake City this evening. A man with a knife stabs 2 people inside the grocery store. Another man with a gun plays cops. He stops the gunman, or rather the knife-wielding man, from hurting more innocent people. It was breaking news that we first reported at 6, and now the night team's Don Hudson joins us live in Salt Lake City with more on this real-life drama. Don?
Police say the suspect purchased a knife inside the downtown Smith store and then turned it into a weapon.
And then he pulled it out and just stepped right outside the Smiths, right in between the foyer, and just started stabbing people and yelling, you killed my people, you killed my people.
Within seconds, the knife-wielding man seriously injured 2 people.
There was blood all over. One got stabbed in his stomach, and one he got stabbed in his head, and he held his hands, he got stabbed all over his arms.
Then, before the suspect could find another victim, a citizen with a gun stopped the madness.
A guy pulled a gun on him and told him to drop his weapon or he would shoot him. So he dropped his weapon, and then the people from Smith's got him.
And officers had high praise for the gun-carrying man who ended the hysteria.
This was a really volatile situation that could have gotten even worse. I mean, we can only assume that, judging from what we saw, it could have gotten a lot worse. So he was definitely in the right place at the right time.
Dozens of other shoppers who too could have become victims are also thankful and still in shock from the experience.
Scary, actually. It's really scary. 5 minutes before I walk out to my car, and it could have been me.
And now we want to give you an update to everyone involved. Police said that the victim suffered serious injuries. Actually said they were critical, but they have not released their names. As for the man who pulled out the gun, they haven't released his name. And the suspect himself, they haven't released his name either. In fact, I just got off the phone with police. They tell us they just began interviewing him about at 9:30 tonight. So we'll probably find out more about him tomorrow. Reporting live in Salt Lake, Don Hudson, ABC 4 News 19.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
Minute after 5 o'clock. Let's kick it off with our top story. A violent night in Houston had homicide investigators very busy. 2 of several shooting cases they're looking into may have been self-defense.
Both happened just blocks away from each other on the southeast side of town. So let's turn to Eyewitness News reporter Eric James, who's live at Gulfgate Shopping Center, where a man turned the tables on a carjacker. Eric?
Good morning, Tom. Well, right now investigators tell us that the would-be robber in this case had the tables turned on him when he tried to rob a man that had a license to carry a concealed weapon. That man pulled out his own gun and then shot the suspect in this case. All this took place shortly after 10 o'clock last night. The victim in this case, the man who shot the robber, had just pulled into the parking lot here at the H-E-B at the Gulfgate Shopping Center. The man walked up to the window of his vehicle, pointed a gun at him, and that is when the man reached for his own gun and retaliated with gunfire.
I just know he said he parked, and as he was about to get out of the truck, the guy came up to his door as he was getting out.
Was he like in a carjacking or just wanted money?
He didn't. He told him to get back in, so I don't know what he was going to do at that point. If he was planning on taking the truck or just planning to rob him.
The would-be robber was shot several times. He tried to get away by jumping into a car that was parked nearby. However, he fell out of that car and later died. Now, police did arrest the man that was driving the car that the would-be robber jumped into. They're trying to figure out if he is the second suspect in this case. No one else was hurt. Eric James, 13 Eyewitness News.
All right, thank you, Eric. Well, new for you this morning.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
A Dallas store clerk turns the tables on what police say is a would-be robber. And this time, it's that would-be thief who ends up in the hospital. CBS 11's Bud Gillette is live in Dallas with another story you'll see only on CBS 11 News. Bud.
That's right, Tracy. The Motion's convenience store back here behind me is convenient because it's 24 hours, and sadly that sometimes makes it a convenient target. But police say that at 4 o'clock this morning, a man came in on a clerk that was more than a match for him.
Kind of rough. I really feel bad. I'm still kind of nervous.
Benny Brown won't talk about details of the shooting incident, but he remembers feeling fear as it unfolded.
Nervous, jittery. I'm just, this is something I wouldn't want to wish on anybody.
But police say what Brown did was to defend himself when he saw the suspect's semi-automatic handgun. Brown fired the store's own gun 3 times, apparently striking the suspect, who staggered away empty-handed. Hours later, a man matching the suspect's description turned up at Parkland's emergency room with a gunshot wound to the head.
Parkland Hospital called us regarding this gunshot victim. We're not sure if he had been in the hospital that entire time or if he tried to tend to his own wounds.
Police identified that suspect as 26-year-old Christopher Marquis Wade. He's in fair condition at Parkland and will be charged with aggravated robbery. Given the circumstances and the history of the area, the store's patrons and police feel Brown's actions were justified.
Pretty safe during the day and night, just kind of got to watch for yourself. I think a person has a right to defend their property.
Now, according to police reports, Brown had seen this suspect several times here at the past, but when he showed up this morning, it just naturally raised suspicions. Live in Dallas, Bud Gillette, CBS 11 News.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns. But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3 handguns.
Between the devastating mass shootings in Colorado and what happened over the weekend at a Sikh temple, there was another shooting you may not have heard about. But this was, by every account, a true Texas shootout where a good Samaritan armed with a gun is credited with saving a police officer's life. Reporter Kevin Reese has the story.
Right here. And I'm shooting right through there, just like that right there.
His name is Vic Stacy. The video is a bit fuzzy, but his story is as sharp and clear as his dead aim. He lives in early Texas, about 2 hours southwest of Fort Worth, at a place called the Peach House RV Park, where his neighbor Charles Connor lost his mind. Connor shot and killed 2 neighbors in a dispute over their dogs, killed the dogs too, then started shooting at police when they raced to the scene.
I'm just a citizen trying to help an officer out. That's what I'm trying to do.
What Vic Stacy did was pull out his own .357 pistol. The officer couldn't get a good shot, but Stacy could, from at least 150 feet away.
And I thought, he's fixing to kill that boy. And that's when I squared off and hit him in the leg and knocked him down. I saw him turn the gun around toward my direction, and I saw him throw another one in the chamber, and he took a shot at me. And then that's when I put 4 more in him.
Stacy dropped his neighbor with 4 shots. The officer hit the suspect twice.
Anytime you got to take someone's life, it's not an easy situation. I guess the main consolation on this is I think he helped save the officer's life, to keep him from driving into an ambush more or less.
But Vic Stacy says he's no hero, doesn't want any accolades for killing a neighbor, doesn't want any more reporters calling his house.
So that's the way it is, you know. And you just got to live with it now.
And live with the praise of every cop in West Texas. Kevin Reese, KHOU, 11 News.
But you don't need an AK-47. You don't need 400 rounds. You don't need 3